Right, so I think it's time to kick off. It's actually 8 o'clock. So I'm just going to say thank you to those of you that that show up live with us. But if you're watching it on replay, then that's absolutely awesome as well. So we're just going to start off with a little introduction of ourselves. So I'm Jodie Mykaels from Jodie Mykaels Coaching. I'm a beauty business coach. So what that means is I help anybody that's in the beauty industry build a nice, strong business. So I've been in the beauty industry for over 25 years now as a beauty therapist. I've worked in salons, I've worked self-employed, I've done mobile, I've done hire a room, I've worked married, single, raising a child on my own, and also with a long-term illness. So I think I've covered pretty much most things in my sort of 25 years that a lot of you guys are going to cover as well. And including the last recession as well. So that's quite, up to date now, isn't it, really? So I've been a coach for the last 3 years. And I decided to obviously help people in the beauty industry because that's what I know. So my aim is basically to help people build a business with a strong foundation and that works in alignment with their personal values. So that's a little bit about me. So I'm going to pass you over to our awesome Alison.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Alison. I run a business called Two Minds. I am a mind coach and therapist. So I specialise in human mind, the human behaviour, getting the best out of ourselves. I'm passionate about supporting people to understand their own limits, their own doubts, their own challenges, and then be able to think about how they can then help themselves be a better version of themselves. So I am really keen always to share a lot of my journey, and my journey runs parallel with my professional journey. So I trained originally as a therapist working in the NHS for 24 years. But then latterly trained in different types of coaching, NLP, all sorts of different kind of brain processes. But running completely parallel with the whole of my career has been my own journey. And I'm really passionate about sharing that because I feel that so many people feel like they're on their own. They don't feel like they think like everyone else. And guess what? We all struggle in one way or another. So I'm really keen to kind of share some of my everything, really, my journey and my what got me here. So I will share that tonight.
Absolutely awesome. Okay, so what we're going to do tonight, we've picked kind of 3 areas that most of my beauty clients struggle with. So we thought that would be a really good place to start with you. So the first one we're going to do is a money mindset. So this could be knowing your worth, knowing what to charge for your treatments, actually even asking for money. Some people really struggle with that. Asking for like a cancellation policy fee, putting up your prices, anything like that. There's a mindset around that. So we're going to go into a bit more of a deep dive in a second. The second topic we're going to go for is confidence. Now, this may well overlap on a couple of the different areas, but having the confidence to go out and be in business on your own is you need it because it's a tough old world out there, but it's a fantastic job if you're up for the challenge. And then thirdly, the work-life balance. Now, it's the one thing we all strive for. And if you can get that harmony in your life, then the rest of the journey, I think, is just awesome. So we're going to start with those. And then anybody that's got any questions, then we will ask you to raise your hands and you can ask those and we'll do our best to answer those. And then we've got a couple of little goodies for you at the end. So, right, are you ready, Alison?
I'm ready.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's start with the money mindset. So as I've just given you sort of a fair few examples there, what would you say is the biggest thing from your angle on money matters, Alison?
I think people need to kind of almost get to grips with their relationship with money before they even think about some of the other challenges. Because some people have been brought up, it can go as far back as that. You don't need to be digging around in your past, but I think it's really important to just get a sense of kind of your relationship with money, because it might be that it's actually the way that money was described, the way the money was treated when you were younger. So some people think money is really positive and it's great. Some people think that it's dirty. Let's just say how it is. Some people think money is bad, which is why they struggle to ask for money. Some people think it grows on trees, and some people have been brought up to have a real fear around money. So I think the first place that everyone needs to start, particularly if you're in business, is to just get a sense of where your relationship is to start with. And then there's a chance that you'll need to tweak that.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely, sorry, just jumping in there. I was going to say, I was always told that you have to work hard for money. Money doesn't come easy. You don't waste it because it's such a, small resource of it, and it's so hard to get. And, so I always grew up with that kind of mindset that you can't earn easy money. You have to work hard for it, and you have to work long hours and in tough jobs to do it, which I'm sure a lot of people had as well.
I think so. And I think, but knowing that, because if you don't know that, you'll fall into traps of working every hour God sends, etc., etc. So knowing whatever your relationship is the first place, because there will be tweaks that we'll need to do to help you, or to help yourself. So yeah, people who have this very strong, it's a great ethic. I'll work really hard and I'll earn every penny that I earn. But that in itself, if we're going to come back to work-life balance, that in itself can be a bit of a trap. So that's the first thing I always think is get to grips with your relationship with money at the moment. No judgment. Let's not judge for what that's like. It's there, it's been there, it's probably been taught to you by someone. And again, no judgment. Once you've got the grips of that, you'll then start to probably see where your traps are, almost where your downfalls might be. And that might be like for you, working too many hours potentially. For somebody who is very fearful around money, they might find it really difficult to spend any money on their business. And, obviously, yes, we need to earn money, but sometimes you have to spend money. If you are somebody who is quite lavish and you've had a lot, there's a risk there as well. So whatever it is, let's start with that. So if you're listening to this, just have a little think about what is your relationship with money, because once you've identified what that is, then you can start to look at what you need to do next.
What three things would you say, what sort of three things would you advise in when you're looking at money for them to kind of help sort it out, if that makes sense? What 3 points would you say they need to do first?
Well, I think it's finding out what triggers your fear center when it comes to money. So you'll probably then be able to start to identify what your relationship is. So do you fear spending, or do you fear not having enough, or do you fear whatever? I mean, again, everyone's so different, aren't they? It's difficult to know what somebody is. But ask yourself, when you think about money, where does the fear come from? What is underneath the fear? I think the next thing that you need to do is kind of think about what's one small thing, just thinking. We'll come back to that, because I think that's kind of more the bigger whole mindset thing. But it's maybe just thinking about your language in relation to money. So once you've identified what your kind of fear center is, have a look and see what you're telling yourself all the time. Can you hear yourself saying, I haven't got enough, I'm terrified, I daren't go? You'll get a sense of where you're at. And then a third thing on that, as you've challenged me to come up with 3 things, I would be mindful to see if there isn't anyone that's still around that is still feeding the fear and the relationship that's come from when you were young, because there might well be. I definitely had that. I still had the doubters who'd fed my relationship with money. So when I left the NHS after 24 years, leaving a permanent post, a pension and security, you can imagine my doubters were like, you're mad.
Yeah.
But I knew that I had to go.
Yeah, and I mean, I still have people in my circle, family and friends now, who will still say things like, oh, I haven't got enough for that, or, you know, I haven't got enough for this, or oh, why are you spending money, you know, that amount of money on that? And I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm not bragging at all, but I did actually save up, and I bought myself a pair of Jimmy Choo trainers. Now, I have never, ever, ever spent £650 on a pair of shoes in my entire life, or any item of clothing. But it was one of those material things that I had dreamt of. And people thought I was crazy. You know, they were like, do you know what you could have done with that money? But for me, it was something I dreamt of since I was a young child. I just always wanted at least one pair of designer shoes in my life. I'm very much a shoe person. And, you know, the people in my circle just don't understand it at all. But for me, it made total sense. But again, it was, you know, if I spent more than £25 on a normal pair of shoes, my mum would go mad. You know, it's everyone's got that different level of money mindset as well as what they would spend. I mean, some people would spend £650 and wouldn't think twice. So everyone's got a different level of what money means to them anyway.
Yeah. So we have to respect that, because it will come from something that's been probably taught to you. So I think that's the first thing is, I think when we think about money mindset, the other thing, you know, to think about when you are, you know, I love the fact that you've bought something that you've dreamed about for years. I'm a massive fan of us having that level of what's right for you. You know, again, if there was one thing with this, with everything that we're going to be talking about tonight, you know, I don't want to summarize already, but it is always, we have to be in our own lane. We have to be doing what's right for us. So if that is spending that and that's what you want to do, you know, who is anyone else to judge you? And I think that's where we fall into such traps, don't we, of people of worrying about what everyone else is going to think. And that in itself is usually a barrier.
They, as I call them, you know, they have always got an opinion, haven't they?
They certainly have. But the other thing about other people, I mean, again, I try and say, you know, no judgment. I spent years judging my parents, and I've, you know, I don't try not to do that now. But usually people have an opinion on you, but actually they're telling you what they would do. So when someone's got a problem with you spending £600 on a pair of shoes, that's because they wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
It's not actually information that's really that interesting to you, because you've made your mind up and you're doing it. And I'm a big fan of, let's just do it. If that's what you want to do, if that's what you want to spend.
That's it. But it also works in the same way as business. If you want to have the top of the range equipment in your beauty business, then go for it. But quite honestly, you don't need the top range of everything to provide really awesome treatments for your clients. Sure. So, you know, I have a lot of people saying to me, oh, what is everyone else using? What's the best of the best? You know, what should I be doing on this? But I am on a budget. And I think, especially with things like Instagram and Facebook for certain, people see other businesses that have maybe been established a long time that look really glitzy and glam and have the best of everything. And they're just starting out and they're like, oh my God, if I need a successful business, I need to have that. And it's like, no, you don't. But also, obviously, it's Facebook and Instagram. Anyone can make anything look absolutely awesome. So chances are they could well be struggling behind those photos. And there's you striving to get what they've got when even they don't have it. Exactly. So like you said, stay in your own lane. And with money, you've got to work with what you've got and be comfortable with that.
Definitely. Yeah, I think comparing yourself to others is a trap on any level, but I think particularly on money, because again, other people will have a different relationship with money. So there's no point in you looking at what they're doing and then thinking, well, I'm not good enough because I'm not doing that, because they might have a different relationship.
Absolutely.
Their starting point might be different.
Yeah. So without sort of going too over into the confidence section at the moment, when I sort of mentioned about sort of my clients struggling to ask for money, so at the end of their treatment, you know, they might ask for 25, 30 pounds roughly for their manicures or what have you, but some people really struggle with that, and they find it really hard to actually say, oh, okay, that'd be 30 pounds for today, please, you know, because they feel, I don't know whether it's a, like I say, it is a confidence thing, or whether it is a mindset around the money and knowing that that treatment is worth that money. Or the cancellation policy is another one. And, you know, I have people saying, but they haven't had their treatment, how can I ask for the money? And it's like, but they booked that time with you. And if you went to the dentist, they would make you pay a cancellation fee. So what makes your business not suitable to do exactly the same? Because if you're not working, you're not earning, and your time is precious. So how would you, sort of, what advice would you give to those those business owners that are struggling to sort of reach out and ask for the money?
I mean, it's definitely a thing, isn't it? That definitely the beginning of people's businesses, they often find it quite difficult. But I think one of the reframes here is to think about, it's not just that hour and that beautiful massage that you've just done that you're asking for the money. It's the training that you've done. It's the everything that gets you to that point with that client on that day. They're paying for that. So if you know you've given them a really nice experience, and you've trained properly and done all the right things, and you've got all of your lovely room, or you've rented your room out, that person's paying for all of that. So it's not just that 1 hour that they've spent with you, or that whatever they've had. It's the fact that you trained all those years. And, you know, I do understand that. I mean, I can remember first time I started out. I mean, I've been in business 13 years now, so I'm old hand at it. But, you know, I remember that weird, like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm going to have to ask people for money. But it's often a relationship that you've got with money that gets in the way. So it is about self-worth. It is about knowing that you know, you've done a lovely job, and people will pay. But I think the other thing is as well is to maybe think about when you ask for money. I think making sure that you don't leave it till it's that awkward kind of thing at the end. Make sure that there is a system in place, there's a something that feels right for you, that says, you know, right, this is how the system works, if you like, so that, you know, you can, I don't know, even helping yourself by saying, when the person's coming in and getting settled, and saying, right, you know, I want you to really comfortable, and we'll do the payment later, and say it in the chat, in the lovely, would you like a glass of water, and we'll, you know, and maybe just be more in conversation rather than, or have it, and I don't know whether you would recommend this, but if you've got a little thing that you send them, a little, I'm sure you don't do contracts like we do, but I think in some treatments you do need to have something signed. Make sure it's in there that the payment will be done at the end, so that you try and minimize the awkwardness that you've actually created. Because remember, that person is expecting to pay. Yeah. So I think the other thing to remember is you've made up, or you're making it difficult to not ask for the money that you deserve because you've done that treatment.
I mean, one thing I do actually train people on, and I did do a little workshop on this a while ago, is I actually taught people to break down the price of their treatment, literally down from the oil they used to the cotton buds they used, literally work down to the penny how much that treatment has actually cost you, so that you know when you're pricing your treatments what you're comfortable with charging, because you know it's all going on, and your electricity, you've got to wash your towels, your advertising, it's all got to go in there, as well as an hourly wage. So exactly. I find that by breaking it down like that, people can really see the value of what they're asking, so that kind of makes them more comfortable. And two, definitely sending out a text the day before saying, hi Sarah, it'd be great to see you at 10 o'clock for your massage tomorrow morning. That'll be £30. I can take cash, or I take cash and card, whatever's most comfortable for you. Hope that's okay. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. So again, you're preempting that awkward conversation. And especially if they're having a manicure and their nails are a bit wet, for example, sometimes I'll say to them, would you like to pay up front so that you haven't got to mess around when your nails are still wet, for those that still go for normal nail varnish. But you know what I mean? It's like, well, as you said, it's preempting those awkward conversations. So it's all done up front, and having a price list that's got things like your cancellation policy on. And what I did a long time ago is I actually had a notebook made up with my cancellation policy on and a little signature at the bottom. So I gave each one to a new client, or just rip off a page. They would read it, sign and date it, and then I kept it with their client card. So they could not say they hadn't seen that cancellation policy. And I found for me that really did stop that awkward conversation. And it just makes things more comfortable for everybody involved.
I think so. I like all those little tips. It's little tips, isn't it? But I think the biggest thing is to remember there's only you that's feeling awkward about it, because the person is expecting to pay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise they wouldn't have booked. That's
absolutely.
It is all in, when we talk about mindset, it's all in your head that it's awkward to ask for the money, because actually they've booked the treatment with you and they'll want to pay. And if you've made it gorgeous, they will absolutely want to pay, because they've treated themselves. I think the other thing to think about when you talk about mindset, and this industry particularly, is the people that are coming because they know they deserve something as a nice treatment. Obviously some people have slightly more routine beauty treatments, but a lot of people are coming because it's their time. It's their you time, their me time, whatever you want to call it. So for them, they're investing in themselves. So I think it's also really important for you all as beauty therapists to remember that they're coming to invest. They're coming to pay you, which is their money, to have a lovely treatment, because they deserve to spend that money, and then you deserve to have that money because you've given them that lovely treatment. So really, it should be the easiest thing in the world.
It should be, isn't it? And yet, people really do struggle with it. But I think, preempting anything before the client gets to you, I think, is the easiest way to help with that. And definitely by sort of having a little bit of a look, as you said at the very beginning, about what's behind your mindset and why you think you're feeling like that, and just having a little bit of a self-discovery session and trying to figure that one out. So I think that really nicely.
It doesn't need to be a deep dive just to say there. It's just that, I can see that now. Because so often people don't pause to think about that. Just think about where's it come from? Like, we have relationships with lots of things, with food, with people, obviously. But, we have relationships with things. Time is another one. I hear loads of people, I'm too busy, I've got no time. You've just got a relationship with time that tells you that time is rare, and it's not.
No, and we'll slide into that one shortly.
How you use it.
So what we'll do is we'll just slide into the confidence sector now. So with this one, we sort of mentioned the other day about when we were chatting about how visible you are in your business. And with, when I first started back in the beauty industry, there were no Facebook, Instagram. You literally had to go and put leaflets through people's door, or you had to go to mother and baby groups and go and speak to people. And it was all you had to get in front of your clientele. Whereas nowadays, the salon owners are all growing up with Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and I find a lot of them struggling to actually get face to face with their clients, but yet they're expecting those clients to then come and sit in front of them and have a really intimate treatment, and in a very intimate space as well with that client. And I think it's about, you've got to build that relationship with them before they're going to let you get that close and touch them when they're in a very vulnerable position with you. But obviously, so one is about being visible in the old kind of style, but also having the confidence for people of kind of my age and up. You know, we've got to get used to getting on Instagram. I mean, you know, 3 years ago, I would never have done a live video or stood up in front of anybody and chatted or anything like that. I was okay in like one-to-one small groups, but would never have done anything bigger. And obviously, to get the attention online now, I'm not saying people have got to jump up and start dancing and jiggling around and doing silly things on these platforms, but to actually at least show their face and be visible is really important. So on the mindset kind of things, what would you suggest for sort of boosting confidence, learning how to get visible, and learning to sort of boost your business in the modern world?
Well, I think it's fair to say that people buy off people, don't they? So that's where you've got to show yourself, whether we like it, whether you like it or not, it is here to stay. But I think that the thing with the brain is it likes repetition. So if you keep telling yourself, can't do it, I'm not confident enough to do it, I hate myself on camera, then you'll stay in that place. If you say to yourself, I'm going to have a go, I'll just keep practicing, you build a groove in your neural network. So if you just, even if you don't post anything, you just start practicing and just record it yourself. And then if, you know, I heard somebody yesterday who said if they ever do a live, they never watch it back. They just do it. They just have a go, not a live, you know, like a video. They just go la, 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 la. And then she says, I never, ever watch it back. She said, I would cringe and just wouldn't think. But she gets good feedback. She gets easy, because people like her. She's dead personable. And because she just goes, la, 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 hi, everyone. And then boom, she doesn't overthink it. She just gets on with it. And I just thought, actually, that's probably a really good strategy. But I think we need to let the mind know that it's not scary. And how we do that is we practice. So, you know, they do dress rehearsals for plays. Why? Because we need the mind to know that this isn't a new experience. So when we've done something on repeat, your mind will be much more confident doing it. So again, it's like going to the gym. If you want to get confident, you imagine if you want to get fit, you go to the gym and you do lots of exercises, repetition over a period of time, and eventually, you know, you might get something in the region of a few muscles. Think of it like that. Think of it like building a confidence muscle. So the only way you do it is repetition. So just getting your phone and just pointing at yourself and then just say, hi, my name's, and then delete it and then do it again and then do it again. That'd be like you at the mind gym. And then eventually it will be a case of just get on with it. Because otherwise you are going to come up with all of the reasons why you can't do it. And our minds are risk averse. You know, they are more likely to be not wanting to do it. But I think that, you know, it's hard because it is here to stay. But we can't get away from it. You know, I could talk about the mind till I'm, you know, till whatever time we want to tonight, and probably for another year. But this side of it, we've got to somehow find a way. I mean, I'm not that. It's not that I have no confidence to come on, but I never seem to prioritize going on videos because I wasn't brought up with the internet at all. Didn't exist when I was younger. So, you know, I think for those that are younger, you can see that it's their more normal place. So I think you're right. For someone who's was born after social media or internet, they've got to find a different way to do it. Or are your clients not on there? So if you've got a slightly older set of clients, someone who's also not on social media, then they're not there. Where are they? What are they reading? Where are they hanging out? You've got to go and find them. So I think for me, it's about being visible where your ideal client is. and then
That's
find them.
That's really important, actually. And I must admit, one of the things I do teach is all about, obviously, where is your client, but where I teach them old school as well as new school, because to me, there's nothing better than meeting someone face to face, being able to read their body language, see that they've got a set of nails on or some really nice hair or something, and being able to give them that compliment in order to start a conversation. And sometimes, yeah, your heart's going and you think, oh my God, I can't just blurt out. But sometimes just having those moments can build the most special of relationships. I mean, I've got clients I've had for 25 years. They've literally stuck with me from the very beginning. And it's all about building that relationship and just staying visible. So obviously, to start with, it was a phone call, because that was the only way we could connect. Whereas nowadays, obviously, I tend to text them or email them or FaceTime them, because obviously we've gone into more modern times. But no, I mean, like your example, I was definitely one of those that would record and just upload. I wouldn't look. And even now, to be honest, maybe I'll check to see if I've got my wording right or I'm getting a point across, but I try not to almost associate myself with the person on the video. It's just like, no, that's good, that's fine.
I think the other thing that social media, there's a few things that what we're talking about here, and if this is our marketing funnel, there's a few things that the human brain is really challenged with through this whole point. So we are very likely to think that we're the only one. We're the only one who doesn't like doing lives, or doesn't like putting some sort of video up, or doesn't like showing themselves. Not true. Loads of people. Yeah. We are also likely to be comparing ourselves to other people, not necessarily in a favourable way. So imagining that everyone else is, finding it dead easy and also just doing all these amazing things. Also not true. And I think the other thing about the internet and the way it's gone is it's not about being perfect. So there are people out there who have perfect Instagrams, but they're not personable people. And people want to buy off people. So it's so important to think about the message and kind of who you are, and that's got to come across. If you're trying to be perfect, which doesn't exist, by the way, you are going to doubt yourself, question yourself, never put something up live, because you'll always question whether it's good enough. But actually, that's not what it's about. It is about point and press and just speak and then be done. When I first started in business, you were told, you should have a video that's been professionally made and say, hey, my name's Alison. And none of that's true anymore. It's that instant stuff. I mean, the good thing about stories and things on Facebook and Instagram is it's gone. So put it up and it's gone. 24 hours, gone, finished, end of. Yeah. So I think so again, as I say, some of the patterns and habits in our brains, perfectionism is an issue. Comparing yourself to others is an issue. Thinking that you're only one is an issue. And that social media is challenging us because of those patterns.
I think one of the, as you well know, obviously I try to aim to get people to build their business around their values. And I think this also helps build confidence, because if you know you're doing something that you're totally in alignment with, that gives you the self-confidence, because you're not hurting anybody, you're just getting a message across, you're just being yourself, you're sending it out with love and kindness, and just because you want to help other people feel wonderful, which is what this industry is all about. It's about making other people feel good, which in turn makes us feel good as therapists, or hairdressers or whatever. And I think that's something that really does help build confidence, is knowing you're doing the right thing for both yourself and your clients. And I think that's really good at sort of building confidence as well. But like you said, it's everything's about building that muscle and practicing and just only doing things that are in alignment with you and just growing with it at your own speed.
I mean, there are people out there who are running very successful businesses who never do any videos. It isn't a have to by any stretch of the imagination, but it's where your clients are. If the people you want to attract are all over Instagram, then that's where you'll have to be. But if they're not, then don't. I mean, this is the thing, you know, we've all been kind of, you know, the social media is designed to be addictive.
Oh, I'm terrible at watching those 2-minute videos. I could sit there for hours watching those.
It's designed to be addictive. But do the people who've designed it, do they let their friends and family sit on it for hours on end? No. Because they know how addictive it is. So I think for me, it's about deciding what you're going to do and then do that and then stop, do something else. So decide that once a week, you're going to put out a video post or whatever it is, whatever feels right for each person, and do that. But then stop looking at everyone else and thinking, oh God, they're doing 3 videos a week, or they're doing whatever. So stick to what you decided you're going to do and do that, and not worry about what everyone else.
About kind of stepping out of your comfort zone.
I think stepping out of your comfort zone is where any growth is. So anything we're talking about now, anything that anyone listening is saying, that's my problem. As soon as it's a problem, that means we're on the edge of something. So if you feel nervous, if you feel worried, if you feel cross, if you feel like you just want to put your head back under your duvet, then it means that you're thinking about something that is potentially on the edge of your comfort zone. So you can stay safe if you want. You can stay small and never push your comfort zone. But if you can push your comfort zone, then your brain, again, it's like the muscle. You know, if you go to the gym and the instructor gives you a new piece of kit, you're going to feel sore probably the next day, and you're going to not know how to use it there on the first day. They're going to show you, and you're probably going to feel stiff the next day. That's the same thing. If you do something different, it's going to be the same thing.
Awesome. Okay. So the third sort of topic for the evening, which again is a really big one for me and my clients, is work-life balance. Now, as I've said, I've been through many things, being married, being single, with my daughter, raising her on my own. I've had a long-term illness. I am pretty good at the work-life balance most of the time. I do sometimes like to overwork a little bit, you know, and push myself. But I would like to say I've got a really good sort of work-life balance. And I'm pretty good at that one. But for those people that are still in that mindset of they're doing a 28-hour day in 24, what would you say to them?
Stop. No, I think the thing it's hard when you're self-employed because you haven't got this sort of structure that goes with a 9 to 5, or, I'm not doing any more for that other person, that other company. I think the thing that I see so often is people will be working more hours, but then feeling really tired, not paying attention to their needs, wishing they were on the couch, so that's why they're trying to work, or when they're off, they're stressing and worrying about work, about their businesses. So for me, the segue there is choose. So either choose to work for these hours, whatever the hours are. So if you're going to work late, like tonight, we're doing this, we're choosing to do it.
Absolutely.
So it's absolutely tonight, it's fine, we're choosing to do it. Perfect. Mm-hmm. But if you were then being off, you need to not be running all these, I should do this, I should have done this, I shouldn't do this, should have done this. So it's about choosing which you're going to do and do it well. So rather than feel guilty for worrying about work when you're supposed to be topping up and having some time off, or when you're in work. I think that's always what I notice people don't. They sort of sit straddled across the two. So you're neither, you're so tired, you're not doing your work properly, or you're trying to top up and you're not actually doing that properly. So I think that's the first thing that we need to think about. But I think when you are self-employed, the other top tip is about boundaries. So you could be available to your clients, answering texts, this, that, and the other, all evening, all weekend. But I think it's about having that cut-off point. Decide what's your reasonable cut-off point. Is it 7 o'clock? Is it 8 o'clock? Is it 6 o'clock? And if you've got a young family, make that thing and almost let your clients know that they are your hours. So you might have your hours that you're working your actual appointments, but what are your hours the other side of that? Because I think it's too easy to just be answering questions and messages, and actually your brain needs rest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think saying no, a lot of people really struggle with that very small word, don't they? Actually saying no to people, whether it's family or work people. It's that whole circle that surrounds you, and there's a lot of guilt around that word as well, and then they always leave themselves till last, and it's just like, what are you doing? I really struggle with trying to explain to people what damage it's doing to their mental health by trying to do everything for everybody. It just doesn't work.
No. And I mean, I see it, the burnout, the risk of burnout is so huge if you are running around after everyone else, not prioritizing yourself ever, not giving yourself permission. Do beauty therapists have beauty treatments? You often go and the nails aren't done, and it's a thing, isn't it? It's just like, I'm not going to show you mine. But again, it's that permission, isn't it? It's allowing yourself to have that time for you. But again, for me, it's the choosing to do it. Choose to go and enjoy whatever it is that you need to go and do, or choose to be in work and get your head down and get it done. I think that's
one thing I hear a lot on that subject is, I don't have a choice.
You do.
There's always a choice, but I hear this so much, and people, it's one thing. I mean, maybe again, if you can explain it to us from your angle. So people will say to me, I don't have a choice, and I will say, there's always a choice. And they're like, no, you don't understand. There just isn't a choice. I can't drop one thing for something else. They're both just as important. What would you say sort of their mindset around that?
I mean, I think there is a choice on some level for everything. I think for me, it's all about priorities. It's just trying to identify what is the priority, because you can't do everything at the same time. And what I notice a lot of people do is, when they feel overwhelmed with how busy they are, they'll tell themselves that if I just get all these things done, I'll feel okay. So then they work themselves to an absolute wrung out whatever. But the reality is, the thing that you're trying to get rid of is the feeling of overwhelm. Now, that is just a feeling that's not actually attached to, because you can't do all of your things. It's just not possible. We're always going to have things that we need to put off till the next day or the next week or whatever. But remember, that feeling, that horrible feeling of feeling stressed and overwhelmed, is the thing that we need to get rid of.
Yeah.
We don't get rid of that by ploughing on and continuing to try and do whatever it is that you're trying to do. We get rid of that feeling by doing some self-care.
And that's so important.
Enough now. I'm going to stop and I'm going to go and do it. And it's hard. I know how hard it is if you're self-employed and you think, you know what, I'm busy and I could just stay and I could just get these things done and I could just this and I could just that. But all the while, your mind, we're more likely to make mistakes.
Yeah.
We could burn.
I always say, if you're burnt out and not well, then nothing gets done. And it's trying to get people to understand that by scheduling better and, you know, getting your 8 hours of sleep and making sure there's a little bit of me time in there as well, that's just gives you a mental boost, let alone a physical boost. One little activity I use with people is to have a kind of priorities box. So it's 4 boxes. So you have all the important things. So if it's important, like you've got to pay the bills or you've got to go to the dentist, you kind of put it in one thing. If it's urgent, it goes in the other box. So if it's got to be done and it's like got to be done like by tomorrow, it's you put that at the top. Other for just things like, you know, you need to do a bit of gardening. Yeah, it needs doing, but it's not life-threatening. So it goes in the other pile. And then the most important one is urgent and important. So, you know, you've got to go for a hospital appointment for yourself, or you've got an appointment with the bank manager because, you know, things are going really bad, or something that is important but can't wait. And obviously I say to people, that's the first category you finish, regardless of what time you've got, nothing else. If that box isn't done, the rest of it can wait. And again, it's that mindset around what can wait and what can't wait. And sometimes for some people that's quite distorted because they see something as being quite urgent when it's not. It's more of a choice if they actually want to do it, not they have to do it. So again, it's differentiating between the boxes.
I think one of the things that I've got 2 things that I'd like to add to that is, one, other people's urgent doesn't necessarily need to become yours.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are somebody who keeps being sidelined by somebody else's lack of organisation, that isn't necessarily something for you to pick up. So I see that a lot in business, where somebody's got a plan for the day and then somebody else who hasn't been prioritising something and suddenly comes and says, I need this and I need it now. I need you to do this and I need it today. Hang on a minute, what about my priorities? So I think other people's urgent, you know, again, family members, people who are demanding, be careful because they will suck your time. But I think the other thing that possibly goes on, you know, that sort of grid that you've mentioned, I mean, it's been around for years, hasn't it? That I can't remember what the year is, but it's like 1906 or something. It's been around that thing. It is good. But the thing that usually eats away at you is the thing that you keep putting off.
Yeah.
So if you've got a job, a task, it might be ring the bank manager, it might be one that you've decided is quite difficult to do. You might have made it into an even bigger job in your head.
Yeah.
So you're stressing about it. So it's, you know, potentially procrastination is what we're talking about here. You keep putting it off, but it's still ning, 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 ning in your head. And they say, don't they, that you should do that job first, get it done.
Yeah.
Just make yourself get that horrible job done. 9 times out of 10, it won't be as bad as you thought anyway.
Absolutely. I mean, just to finish off here, let me give you a scenario. Again, one I've heard many a time. I've got a lot of women that have got, I say 9 to 5 jobs, you know, a paid salaried job. And they move into the beauty industry because people love the flexibility of that and they love the creative side of it and kind of all of that. So they're doing the training. They're obviously trying to build a business. And they've also got young children. This is a whole big ball. And this is something I see so often. And they get really torn between, you know, I need to spend time with the children, and also I can only work certain hours around young children because you can't exactly just leave them whilst you're working. But obviously their set hours at their job is set, and trying to fit everything else in, plus be wife or God knows what other roles that we have in around that, let alone me time. What sort, if I put you on the spot and say, what 3 tips would you give somebody in kind of that situation? What would you go with?
Make sure that you acknowledge your successes, because there's a high risk high risk that you'll be focused on all the things that you haven't done. And yet, if you are that busy mum who's working full time, who's trying to build a business, you are amazing. So you need to give yourself some really good acknowledgements of your successes, because you will be and are achieving absolutely loads. I would also say ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. It is not a sign of weakness. So busy people do need to have others there. So speaking up and sharing your needs, really important. And number 3, what's my other one? I would say, ask for help, celebrate your successes, because you are already amazing. And just, you're amazing. Keep going. Just honestly, if somebody's juggling all that, I'm sure I've got something far more scientific than that to give you. But, again, it's checking with your self-talk, isn't it? Make sure your self-talk is encouraging you. Make sure you've got a good support network around you, and you speak up and ask for help, and be specific about what kind of help that you want, particularly if it's a fella that you need to help you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that bit of advice is just invaluable, I think, so many people. I've been there, but a very long time ago. But I think the world is so much different today, and there's so many expectations on women, especially, and men as well. But there's just so much that, people need to do today. And I get so many clients in that particular scenario that struggle. So I'm sure they'll really love that advice that you've just given them.
I've got my 3rd one. It's just miles better.
Oh, go on then.
Don't stay small. Go for it. Be everything that you want to be, and go for it. Because again, society says that women stay small, and actually, no.
No, we shouldn't. We should go out and embrace life. Go out and embrace everything in the world, and just enjoy life, really, and
enjoy it and have fun achieving it and doing all the things.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to wrap that bit up for now. So I know you wanted to ask everybody one little question today for them to take away with themselves, so I'll let you go with that.
So everyone who's listening on this call and listening on record, just ask yourself, of everything that we've heard, because I've given you all sorts of different tips and tools to think about, everything that you've heard, what's your one small thing that you can do as a result of listening to this? And just focus on that one small thing, because often we know all of the things that we need to be doing, and that can be quite overwhelming. So I always think of it a bit like a jigsaw. I've given you lots of things today. We've talked about lots of things that are a bit of a jigsaw for how to manage your money and how to get more confidence and how to be more visible, and all the things that we've both talked about today. And in that jigsaw is lots and lots of little pieces. And how do we do a jigsaw? One piece at a time. So do one thing, and then, if it's on record, watch it again or make some notes, but just focusing on that one small thing. So if everybody just has a think about what's your one small thing that you can do as a result of listening to this.
Awesome. And by all means, pop that one thing into the comments, because we would absolutely love to know what you took away from today, and obviously what it is to be your accountability buddies, what it is, that one thing that you're going to kind of take away with yourselves. So as I said, there's a little something at the end for you guys. So we're going to leave you with the link for Alison's podcast, which is absolutely awesome. Have you got just a couple of words to say about your podcast, Alison?
Yes. So I've just popped it in the chat. You can get it on any of the platforms that you watch that you like listening to podcasts. It's called Mental Wealth, the podcast to invest in your mind. And I'm going to be focusing on confidence. I'm going to be focusing on purpose, some areas of mental health. At the moment, I'm also focusing on social media and the risks to the brain. Sometimes it'll be me solo, and sometimes it'll be bringing guests in to chat about their lives and their situation. So it's going to be inspirational, and they're only going to be like 10-20 minutes long. So short, sharp, get some information, and then run with what's your one small thing, because I say that at the end.
Fantastic. Okay, and from me to wrap this up. So obviously, if you guys are all out there and you're a salon owner who wants to grow your business, obviously, as I said at the beginning, I'm really passionate about helping people grow a business with a really strong foundation so that your business can weather anything, including the cost of living crisis and recessions and goodness knows what else. And having a business that's built around your personal values, so it's a business you enjoy and get up and want to go and do every day. None of that grumpy, oh, got to go work again in the morning. You know, you jump out of bed going, I've got awesome business, awesome clients, and that's where I want to spend my day. So in a fun way, if you want to explore your goals and challenges, then I would love to offer you a free session to come and have a chat with me. We get to have the opportunity to just discuss any dreams, any goals, any business challenges you might have, and to let you go away with an action plan to be getting on with. And if you'd like to do that, I'm going to be popping a link into this afterwards, so you can book a session at your convenience. So, well, thank you all for coming along and being with us tonight. I'm sure I speak for Alison as well, and we've absolutely loved having you all watching us. And like I said, any questions, even on the replay, pop them in and one of us will jump on and answer them for you. But what do you think, Alison? It's been a really good evening.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to just pause sometimes, isn't it? And just think about some of the challenges that we all face. And I think that's the biggest thing, isn't it? Just as a reminder that, you know, this piece of kit up here is very powerful, and it will have us doing things or thinking things that are not always helpful. So I think it is just good to remember that we are all in this together. We are all similar, although we're all very unique. And I'm a big fan of celebrating your uniqueness, but also remembering that we might all have similar challenges.
Absolutely. Sorry, I'm just trying to pop the correct link in here, and I think it's coming up as goodness knows what else. So I think that's the right link, but if it's not, I will definitely make sure it's in. So it's goodbye from me this evening, and goodbye from my lovely co-host.
Never mind, I didn't get the chance to say that.